The weather's getting warmer, and everybody wants to be outside, even your smart speaker. Crank up your favorite Odyssey stations on your Amazon Echo, Google Nest, or Apple HomePod at the pool or while you're grilling. Get your summer soundtrack from stations across the USA, from top 40 to rock, R&B to country. It's all here on Odyssey. Play your favorite station at your command, hands-free on your smart speaker. Your summer soundtrack is part of a universe of audio on Odyssey.
It's Bertans burying the three, and that's probably the loudest Capital One Arena has been in these two games. And Embiid shaken up on the play. As this was happening, that Robin Lopez got the better of Joel Embiid, and indeed, Joel got the worst of it after the block.
Well, you take a look at the way that knee kind of buckles. He immediately grabs for his hip.
Oh, boy. Song seems a little less festive after I hear Mark Zumov and Alaa Abdelnaby describing what happened in the last game. Sixers as they beat the Washington Wizards, and Joel Embiid goes down. Good morning, everybody. Sunday morning in the Delaware Valley. I'm Glenn Macnow along with my pal Ray Didinger. Ray, you all good? A nice walk over today in the heat. I don't hear Ray.
Oh,
there you are. Hi, Ray.
Hello.
There you go. Everything good?
Everything's great.
Okay. So, Ray, there's one question today, and as you and I go on to the air at 10 in the morning, we really can't answer that question. And the question is, will he or won't he? Is Joel going to play? Is he going to play a lot? Some? Not at all? Today? Tuesday? At all in the series? And so I come to you, oh wise Ray Didinger, to ask, is there any way at this moment, as we sit here at 10 a.m., to make any kind of logical and informed bet on this thing?
No.
Okay. Everybody have a great day.
Enjoy it. It's a little steamy out there, but, it'll be fine.
Ray, this, I would say, and I know you have a different opinion on this, so I'll give mine, then you give yours. This is the most important injury issue that our tremendous sports town has faced since, I was going to say, who's going to be the quarterback in the Super Bowl 52 or the 2017 Eagles postseason. Good news is that one turned out okay. Mm-hmm. You actually had another nominee for this.
Yeah, because when you got to the postseason of 2017, you knew it wasn't going to be Carson Wentz. It was just a question. It was going to be Nick Foles. The question was going to be, was he going to be good enough? And he certainly answered that in the affirmative. But no, it more reminds me of Terrell Owens. It more reminds me of Terrell Owens in the previous Eagles Super Bowl when, he had suffered the bad injury. I mean, it basically was a fractured ankle. And late in the regular season, missed the final game, then missed the two playoff games. And then comes the suspense and the drama leading up to the Super Bowl against the Patriots is, will he or won't he play? And obviously the Eagles with Terrell Owens are a far different proposition than they are without him. And it's much the same thing here with Joel Embiid. That's kind of what it reminds me of, because there's that same kind of mystery out there, the same kind of, doctors, medical experts weighing in. Can he play? Should he play? Long-term damage, is it a risk? Can you get one game? I mean, all of those questions that we were asking about Terrell Owens back then, we're kind of asking the same questions about Joel Embiid now. Now, Terrell Owens played in that Super Bowl and was the best player on the field.
God, he was great.
Didn't result in an Eagles win, but, it certainly wasn't his fault.
No, he was great.
He was tremendous. I've gone back and I've looked at the film of that game, and it's absolutely amazing to think that he was basically doing that on one leg. I know. It just tells you what a great, great player he was.
Yeah, I don't want to digress off of this issue because this is the issue today, but I always just feel as if T.O. was a little more mature, if Jeff Lurie or Joe Banner had taken another look at it, if Donovan McNabb was not in a sulk, that thing just all should have worked out, and he should have stayed here, and they should have won 3 Super Bowls. But that was not to be. Okay, Ray. Today, Sixers, Atlanta Hawks, first game, Eastern Conference semifinals, second round. Game 1. As we said, the Wells Fargo Center should be a raucous crowd, should be a great crowd. And we usually make predictions right about now for these things. Mm-hmm. And we can't predict because we don't know how much Embiid's going to play and how effective he will be. Can I stipulate that we agree, everybody agrees, that with a healthy Joel Embiid, the Sixers would win this one in 5, 6, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all had them moving on to the third round. Before anything started, we were already looking ahead to the third round against either the Nets or Milwaukee. That's where the challenge was supposed to begin. By the way, I don't know if you saw last night, 43 seconds into Game 1 of the second round showdown between the Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks, it all gets turned on its head because James Harden limps back to the locker room and appears to have I wrote it down.
Hamstring.
Yes, thank you. Hamstring.
Which has bothered him on and off all season.
Correct. So that could change that whole thing, which, has implications for the Sixers down the road. We are keeping very close attention on all social media. Moshe Kravitz, our fine producer, has one eye on what we're doing and the other eye on anything that's coming out. We will let you know the moment we do. By the way, Keith Pompey, the fine basketball writer, covers the Sixers for the Philadelphia Inquirer, will join us at 11. Maybe we'll get some clarity at that point. Maybe we won't get it, Ray, until Joel Embiid checks into the game.
Could be.
As you said yesterday, there's really no advantage to Doc Rivers saying anything. Right?
No, that's why, he started all week just saying, well, it's day to day, which to me is, I fully expected that because it gives the Atlanta Hawks nothing. They've got nothing to go on now. They're guessing the same as we're guessing as to whether he's going to be available. Is he going to be in uniform? If he's in uniform, does it mean he's going to play, or is he just going to sit there and, be available, or is this just a total head fake? Nobody knows. And so it's annoying that we don't know, but it's to their advantage, certainly, that the Atlanta Hawks don't know. We'll find out at 1:05 today, I suppose.
So do you just put him in uniform even if he's unable to play?
Seems kind of silly to me.
Really? Because he's at a certain point, I guess Atlanta would realize, okay, it's a 2-point game and he's not coming in.
Right.
We know he's not coming in, but I don't know. What you don't? It's not like you lose an important bench position.
No, but again, it would be pretty obvious pretty early in the game if he's in uniform and sweats, but he's not on the floor yet. Okay, well, he's not going to play. But the fact that you're going to keep them guessing now. Every little advantage. There are no small advantages when you get into the postseason in a series against a pretty good team. Atlanta's pretty good. I didn't even think it was going to be Atlanta. I thought that the Knicks were going to beat Atlanta. I really did, given the way the Knicks finished the year. I thought the Knicks would knock Atlanta off, but Atlanta beat them fairly handily. So they're not bad. The Sixers at full strength are better, for sure. But right now, we don't know how close to full strength that is.
Yeah. 215-592-9494, by the way. We're looking to take your calls over the course of the show. We'll learn, as we say. The Sixers have put out hints that it's not too serious, that it's as minor a tear as could be. Yesterday, our Cooper doctor, Dr. Pollard, said, the words meniscus tear sounds scary, but isn't necessarily. That if it's a really small meniscus tear, you can play through it. Ray, what does your well-trained, experienced gut tell you?
He doesn't play today.
At all?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, me, I don't know. I think you're probably right. Maybe he gets on the floor for 7-10 minutes, but I'm just guessing there. I'd be stunned. I'll say this. I'll be stunned if he's a real contributor to the game. I'll be delighted, but stunned. Maybe, as I say, they put him in uniform and you get that Willis Reed moment. By the way, I imagine 90% of our audience does not know what it means when you say a Willis Reed moment. Can you, Ray, give him the quick rundown on that?
Oh, yeah, I think more people know than you suggest.
I don't know about that.
No, I think they do. I think, I think every audience is different. I think our audience is probably more plugged in to that sort of thing. But Willis Reed was the captain and the center for the New York Knicks, late 60s into the 70s. And the New York Knicks put together a great season, and they went to the NBA Finals. And in the NBA Finals, they're playing the LA Lakers, the great Laker team with Jerry West and Wilt Chamberlain. And it comes down to a seventh game at Madison Square Garden. Series is 3-3. Everything's riding on this game, and Willis Reed has a really bad knee injury. And there's a question about, is he going to play or isn't he going to play? Exactly the same kind of stuff that we're talking about now. And this is Game 7. This is everything. And so there's this tremendous suspense in Madison Square Garden. The Knicks come on the floor for pregame warm-ups. No Willis Reed. You know, the other guys are out there. They're practicing. They're going through layups. It's Bradley. It's DeBusschere. It's Frazier. It's the rest of that great team. But there's no number 19. And then all of a sudden you hear this murmur in the crowd. And then it grows and it grows. And suddenly coming down the aisle out of the locker room towards the court in his warm-ups, in his white silks, Willis Reed. He comes out and sort of goes through warm-ups, doesn't look particularly good. Game starts. First 2 times down the floor, Willis Reed shoots, scores. Knicks take the lead, never give it up, win the game. And actually, those are the only the legend has grown and grown and grown over the years so much that people don't realize those were the only points that Willis Reed scored in the whole game.
Yeah, didn't he check out soon after that? Right? I mean, he wasn't able to play that much.
Yeah, but the fact is that's all people remember was how that game started. Was that moment of him coming on the court, him scoring first 2 times down the floor, and Knicks go on to win the championship.
That's all the Sixers need today. There you go. Embiid starts, scores, crowd goes crazy, he goes and rests. I'll ask you first.
By the way, just to finish up on that, I remember interviewing Bill Bradley years later in his office at the U.S. Senate building when he was then a senator about that, and he said that the Knicks players didn't know when they went out for warm-ups. Willis was still in the trainer's room. And when the team went out for warm-ups, they didn't know if Reed was going to play or not. He said, we thought he would because he was Willis, but there was no assurance. He said, and then we're going through warm-ups, and then we hear the crowd. We hear the buzz in the crowd.
There you go.
And we turn around, and there he is.
That's what you get today, man. So I want to talk about our level of confidence, real honest, not waving pom-poms. Nobody can beat us because we're Philadelphia fans. But it would be so amazing, Ray, I would love to emerge from the pandemic with another parade, right? That would be phenomenal.
I think we could officially put the pandemic to rest I think that would put it to rest. If we have a parade, I think all's well in the world.
Yeah, that would be the greatest exclamation point there ever was. And listen, this team is way overdue. We talk about this team is looking to get past the second round for just the second time since 1986. I didn't know that until I read it.
Yeah.
Talk about a long dry spell. The Eagles were in 5 NFC championships and a Super Bowl since then.
Right.
The Phillies were in 2 World Series and a couple of NLCSs. The Flyers played in a slew of finals. They lost them all. But the Sixers, other than the 2001 season when they beat the Raptors in the second round and they ended up in the finals against L.A., the Sixers, their last 11 second-round appearances, they've won just one of them.
Yeah, I know.
That defies the odds.
I know. And the coach has had his problems in the second round, too.
And the coach has had his problems in the second round. We've seen the Sixers lose to Boston and Toronto under Brett Brown. And, yeah, Doc Rivers, let me look this up. He was unable to get past the second round while coaching the Clippers in the last 7 seasons. Wow. It was 2008 with the Celtics when everybody remembers he won the title over L.A. Since then, 6 postseasons in 7 years, never got past the second round, lost it 3 times.
Right.
Okay, so I'll start with you, and we'll ask all the people. Ray Didinger, to whatever degree you want to try to predict this series against the Atlanta Hawks, what do you say?
I still see the Sixers winning. I'm not expecting a 100% Embiid. I expect he'll be playing before the series ends, but I don't know that you can ever expect him to be the dominant MVP guy he was most of the season. But he'll be out there, he'll contribute, and it'll be enough. I felt all along that the Sixers were going to go to at least the Eastern Finals, and I still believe that. So now I'll say the Sixers in 7. I'll say that because Atlanta. I think Atlanta's that good. But I think it'll come down to a 7th game, and I can't see the Sixers losing a Game 7 here.
I should have gone first. I wrote this whole thing, Sixers in 7. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. We agree.
Well, we agree, except I have an asterisk. Sixers in 7, and if Embiid doesn't play, Sixers lose.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they can beat Atlanta without Embiid. I mean, I don't know if that's obvious to people. I don't know if people will argue that and say the Sixers overall are that much better. Ray, let's admit Atlanta is no slouch.
No, they're good. I mean, from the time when they made the coaching change, when they made the coaching change, and they went to Nate McMillan. From that point on, and the regular season, they were 27-11.
Yep.
They actually had the best record in the East from the point when McMillan took over as head coach. They had a better record from that point on than the Sixers did, actually. So they're good, and the thing about them right now is they are fearless. That's the one thing you see about them. They're young and they're tough and they're fearless. And they had no problems walking into Madison Square Garden in a very hostile arena with very hostile fans, and going back there for the clinching game. I mean, they basically called the Knicks and the fans out. There were a couple guys that were saying, this team was supposed to be tough. This team's supposed to be physical. Oh, I don't see it. And they're saying that as they're going back into the Garden for the clinching game. I mean, they're asking for it, and they went up there and won. Yeah. So that's, they got a lot of confidence right now, and they got some good players. Trae Young has never seen a shot he doesn't like. So he's going to be heaving them up from the parking lot, and they're a challenge. They're dangerous, and I think they're going to be a real test for the Sixers. And I don't think this is going to be by any means easy. But I felt all along that the Sixers would survive, and I think they will. But I think it's going to be a fun series, but I think it's going to be a tough series.
Okay, let's see what the people think. Let's go to Rich in Moorestown. You're on with Glenn and Ray. Hey, Rich. I don't see him. Mosh, we got Rich? Well,
yes. I'm here.
There you go.
Okay.
Go ahead,
right.
Rich.
First, pleasure talking to not only the two best sports talk guys on the radio, but in my mind, the best comedy duo in town as well.
Yeah. Thank you,
Glenn.
Rich.
You are a great straight man. If you weren't in sports broadcasting, that could be your second career.
Straight man? All right. Well, that's what I aspire to. Thank you.
Okay. Anyhow, my confidence, I'm more optimistic. I say 70%. I think they can get through this series. So, that's just my opinion. But what I really called about is, yesterday I was listening to you guys, and I didn't hear the very beginning, but I think I heard most of your Merrill interview on and his recommendations for books. And I just wanted to say, I also read The Eagles of Heart Mountain.
Isn't that a great book?
Oh, God, was it outstanding.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever read, or Ray, there's a good book that was written last year by Rich Westcott called, I like biographies, Biz Mackey, Giant Behind the Plate. Mm-hmm. Have ever one of you ever heard of it? Because I think Rich Westcott is a local writer.
He is. He's written a lot of Philadelphia baseball books. I'm familiar with Biz Mackey as one of the early great black ball players, and owners, but I am not familiar with that particular book.
It just came out. It just came out last year. Rich has done. I mean, he's got to be 20 books now, and largely Philly centric, and most of them about baseball. But yeah, he's a local guy. I actually worked with him when I first started out in the business at the Delaware County Daily Times. Rich was on the sports staff there, and I was on news side. That was when we first met. But he's been cranking out books for decades now, and that was his most recent one.
Good for him. Very good. Let's go to Jay in Roxborough. You're on with Glenn and Ray. Hey, Jay.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
All right. Jay.
Well, listen, last night I watched the game with the Mets in Milwaukee, and what I saw last night was I saw one team that was playing playoff basketball and another team that was playing the same way they played in a regular season, and Milwaukee got over playing that way in a regular season because guys are not focused on you for four games straight. They should have been exploiting. They had the big guys. They should have been exploiting all those little guys on Brooklyn just all day inside the Lopez. I bring that up because the Sixers can win this series if they exploit their matchups. I just don't like the way basketball is today because these guys don't exploit matchups. They much rather make these exciting long-distance shots instead of just a big 7-foot guy just going down, let me get an easy basket, and that's how the Sixers will lose this series. if they don't exploit matchups.
Well, so the obvious question I'll ask you is, give me the matchup you want to exploit.
I want Ben Simmons down low. I want Tobias Harris backing his guy down, and I'm just saying this even if Joel doesn't play. We have a big team. We need Dwight Howard should be. I know this is going to sound crazy, but Dwight Howard should be a very important piece to this win right now because there's nobody that's even half as strong as this guy. If he just goes down low, gets the ball, he's going to get fouled. The problem is he going to make his free throws?
Right.
And that's what I worry about with Ben. They can exploit guys, but they just don't make those free throws. So that's what I'm afraid of with this team right now.
Well, I think it's a legitimate fear. To me, and thanks for your call. Good stuff, Jay. I mean, Doc Rivers has said, is all indicated that if he doesn't have Embiid, he's going to play small and use the perimeter as opposed to try to play large against Atlanta, which is not what Jay wants to hear. But I think everybody agrees. If you don't hit, you want to put a number, Ray, 70, 75% of your free throws this round?
Yeah.
You're not going to win?
Yeah, I think
you give me the number that works for you.
I think it's going to be close games, so I'm going to say 75. And they're capable of shooting that. I mean, you've got we all know Ben Simmons has his problems on the line, but the rest otherwise this is a pretty good foul shooting team. Dwight Howard and Ben Simmons are the two guys that seem to struggle at the foul line. But the other guys are good foul shooters. That's one of the great strengths of Embiid is he's a terrific foul shooter. I mean, he just doesn't miss them.
Yep.
But I thought that one of the interesting stats in this series. The Sixers outscored their opponents. One of the strengths that the Sixers had this year was their ability to outscore their opponents from the foul line. They went to the line a lot, and they made a lot. They outscored their opponents from the foul line by 156 points. That's a lot.
Yeah.
But Atlanta outscored their opponents from the foul line by 198 points. So, I think you're onto something when you point to foul shooting between these two teams as being a critical element. Because one of the reasons the Sixers were really good this year was they got to the line and made their shots. But Atlanta was even better at it.
Very good point. As we said, coming up at 11 o'clock, Keith Pompey of the Philadelphia Inquirer will join us. We always have our check-in with Big Daddy around 11:45. Pre-game coming up at noon as the Phillies take on the Washington Nationals today, 105 Citizens Bank Park. And Ray, while people will be watching, some people will be watching the Phillies, others will be looking for Ray Didinger. Where are they going to find him this afternoon?
Just so happens that I will be in Morristown. I will be at the Barnes & Noble at the Morristown Mall. It's a really good store. You and I have done book signings there in the past. But it's a really nice store, and I'm going to be there today starting at 2 o'clock signing copies of my book, Finished Business. So that'll be good. We had a really good signing the other night at Puddler's in Bridgeport. That was really terrific.
Yeah, it sure was.
And, so I get a chance to do it again today. Barnes & Noble, Morristown Mall, 2 o'clock. See you there.
Well, listen, you've written a great book about your career. Father's Day's coming up, graduation's coming up, summer's coming up, all good reasons to buy Ray's book today. 215-592-9494 with Ray Didinger. I'm Glenn Macnow. We're going to talk a lot of hoops, working the Phillies, and Ray has an interesting perspective on the Eagles coach. I want to try to get to that before this hour ends, right here on 94 WIP. Ray Didinger, Glenn Macnow, Sunday morning, 94 WIP. Phillies on WIP this afternoon, 105 against the Washington Nationals. Of course, Sixers open up their second-round series against the Atlanta Hawks. Ray, I am keeping one eye on Twitter. I've asked our producer, Moshe Kravitz, to let us know, break in if anything happens. So far, no news. So Yaron Weitzman is the young guy, the author. He covers the NBA for Fox Sports, and he did the book signing with us the other night.
Right.
Very, very nice guy.
Right.
And he just posted something on Twitter, which I think is a fascinating question, which is, if Embiid doesn't play, do the Sixers or Hawks have the best player on the court? To which my answer is, the Sixers better, because the best player on the court has to be Ben Simmons, or they're not going to win.
Probably true. I hadn't thought about that part of it. But yeah, I think that's probably right.
I mean, we talked about this a lot yesterday, and this has been the conversation in this town forever. Ben Simmons in the playoffs and Ben Simmons in the first round, he's not hitting free throws, and Ben Simmons won't take an open shot. And, hey, they still won, and look, the guy got a triple-double, and look how good he played, and his defense is fantastic, and he sets people up. But the bottom line to the whole thing is this series, if Embiid doesn't play, and maybe if he does, certainly moving forward, if you want to get past the third round, into the finals and all that, so much comes down to Ben Simmons' big chance. This is the postseason where he gets to cement his status. Is he an we know he's an all-star, right, but is he an all-pro? Is he a superstar, or is he just a good player? Is he a guy who's ready to step up and be a leader, an important player in the NBA, or is he just another good player? And to me, the Embiid story, of course, is critical, but beyond that, there's no other story. Ben Simmons is the story.
Yeah, I think that's true. If Embiid plays, I think everybody kind of knows what you're going to get from him. If he's anywhere close to 100%. The great mystery is Simmons, and how's he going to perform? And we saw it just in the last series against Washington, who was not really much of a match for the Sixers in terms of overall talent. But you saw really good Ben Simmons there, and you saw another game where all of a sudden they lose, and it's all about Ben Simmons. And I think that's kind of what this postseason is going to be about. This is going to kind of be the referendum on whether he can actually be the guy that you drafted him to be, which is the guy that's going to come in here and change the direction of the franchise and not just win games and get you to the playoffs, but win you a championship. And that's not just a Philly thing, but that is how guys define themselves in cities. I mean, that's really kind of the difference, and we spent a lot of time about this, and it's a very, very good topic that you introduced yesterday, is, how, in terms of polarizing players, players of whom great things were expected, and what their careers were like, the debate that raged around them throughout their careers, how it ended and how they're remembered. And we talked about Donovan McNabb, and we talked about Eric Lindros, and we talked about Mike Schmidt. And right now, Ben Simmons is kind of in that same conversation. And the reason that Mike Schmidt is revered in this city and will be forever in a separate category from Eric Lindros and Donovan McNabb, both of them really good players, but Schmidt is on a whole different level because he won the championship. Yeah. And I think
by the way,
that's what it's going to come down to with Ben.
I also put Claude Giroux into that Donovan McNabb, Eric Lindros pile.
I don't know, because I don't know that his team was ever that good.
Well, maybe not, but he's a guy who, there are still people. He's been the captain here for so many years. He's never won anything. What does he do in the postseason, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And he hasn't had a good postseason in about 8 years. Right. So, I think it's fair. He is not the superstar of the stature of those other guys, but he's a guy who may be knocking into the door in the Hall of Fame. I don't want to sidetrack too much into that, but I do think this is kind of it with Ben Simmons. And the other part of this that we said yesterday that I think is important and relevant is Ben Simmons was this huge part of the process, and Sam Hinkie picked him, and Brett Brown coached him, and Ben Simmons he came in with the tattooed to his forehead, generational talent. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. None of those guys are here anymore. Hinkie is gone. Brett Brown is gone. All the people who were involved with the original process are gone. So it's a question of whether your current GM, Daryl Morey, and your coach, Doc Rivers, are married to to Ben Simmons. Rivers says all the things to support him, which is good. I think he's got to do that, stick up for your guy. But at the end of the season, if they don't go far, I think those guys sit down and say, okay, what do we need to do to reshape this team? And he's at the top of that list.
Oh, sure.
This is it. This is his moment.
Listen, if they trip over their shoelaces and lose to these guys, you think they're coming back with the same team next year?
No,
I don't think so.
No. And Embiid is not the one that leaves.
No, and he's we had the caller yesterday. Well, is it Simmons or is it Embiid? That's not even debatable. I mean, Embiid is they're not moving on from Embiid. But if they fall short again this year, and once again Ben Simmons goes through stretches in these games where he's a non-factor, yeah, they're certainly going to move on. And because of the reason you said that these guys, the guys that are calling the shots now, have no real stake in Ben Simmons. They didn't bring him here. If they feel like that's the way that they have to reconfigure the team to put a championship team on the floor, they'll do it.
All right, I want to get baseball into this conversation, and my question is, what the hell is with Spencer Howard? Ray, let me just play you a moment from yesterday late afternoon game against the Washington Nationals.
Here's a 1-1 pitch, a breaking ball, and it's up at, a changeup. It's up and in, and it hit him. And Joe Girardi looks rather restless on the Phillies bench, and I don't think they're going to go any further. I think that's it. Harrison making his way down to first. Girardi just went and got on the phone and now is coming up the steps. And Spencer Howard's not going to get out of the third inning here today.
26 strikes, 22 balls.
I mean, obviously, he can throw 97 at times, and he's got some ability, but he just looks, Larry, like a guy who needs more seasoning, wouldn't you say?
I don't know. I would expect not even a little bit more, but a ton of more out of my number one prospect.
Leave it to Larry to always give you the great ending, right? Always.
And he's trying to be kind.
I know he is.
He's trying to be kind.
He paused for a moment before, and he did. He soft-pedaled a little bit, but you know what he's saying, which is correct. We're now at the point with Spencer Howard where you have to start to worry, is this guy going to be a failed prospect? He's not a baby anymore, and he has fallen into this thing where in the first inning he's terrific, 1, 2, 3, get him out, 97 miles an hour, all is well. Yesterday, it was the third inning, and as you heard Scott Fransky say, 47 pitches, he's throwing just cracking 90, loses his velocity. Ray, he tires out like an old man running a sprint. He's done. He's done 20 yards into it. And Howard said after a while, it does seem like there's a wall that I need to push through. I don't know if it's physical, mental, mechanical, or whatnot. It's something to work on for sure. Do you ever, Ray, remember
48 pitches? That's the wall?
Yeah, right? I mean, listen, we're not in the era where guys are throwing complete games, okay? We're not even in the era where, like, Roy Halladay would lead the league with 11 complete games. These days, entire teams will throw 5 or 6 complete games all year. It doesn't happen. Pitchers who throw 7, you celebrate. What's expected is 5 or 6. That's where we are. He's given you 2 1/3.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Have you ever, Ray Didinger, and this is why this is why you now writing this book of your career is so relevant, because you've covered it all. You've covered Phillies teams for 50 years. Have you ever seen a starting pitcher who in the third inning is like, I'm weary. I think I need to go sit down. I'm done. Yeah,
I mean, you could... there are probably some people saying, oh, come on, it was really hot yesterday.
Oh, geez.
It was in the 90s.
But, which, by the way, his fastball wasn't after the second inning.
It was in the 90s, but his fastball wasn't.
Right.
But that wasn't it, because now you've seen this on other occasions, too. I don't know what you do with this guy. I mean, if this is really what he is, I mean, if this is all you're going to get from him, I mean, there's a guy that a year ago, 2 years ago, they were looking at as the diamond of their minor league pitching system.
Yeah,
and he was the guy that was going to come up, and man, he's going to be all that.
Sure, big prospect.
And now you put him out there, and he can't get you through the third inning.
No.
I mean, that's really bad. I don't know that you can. I mean, I've seen some suggestions and heard some people say, well, if this is what it's all about with him, then just make him a reliever. Just don't even bring him in to pitch the ninth inning. Neris isn't all that good. You don't really have a closer as such. If 40 pitches is his limit, okay, put him in a 40-pitch situation. Make him your ninth inning guy. No, I'm not ready to do that with this guy. I think that he has shown the ability. He's got the stuff to be a real pitcher. And I think at this point in his career, I don't think you want to all of a sudden just say, okay, we're going to pigeonhole him. We're going to try to make him something he's never been before, which is a closer. I would sooner, as much as they need pitching, you hate to send somebody down, but I would sooner send him down and just work on stretching him out and making him into the pitcher you thought he was going to be when you signed him.
How long does it take to stretch a guy out?
I don't know.
This is what his fourth or fifth start. He's going shorter every single start.
Yeah, I know, but you can't. The thing is,
his energy's going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, but you can't live with sending this guy out there, and then you don't know if he's going to get you into the third inning. I mean, he's killing the rest of your pitching staff.
So I
send him down to the minor leagues and let him try and work it out, and hopefully, they've tried the banana and peanut butter routine. That doesn't seem. That doesn't seem to be getting the desired results. So maybe you need some real pitching coaching to help this guy become what they hoped he's going to be.
I think, as an alternative, what I would do is put him in middle relief for a little bit, just for now. I mean, this is not your role forever. I mean, basically, Ranger Suarez is the guy who comes in after him, and he's been great, right?
Yeah. So why doesn't he start?
Flip him.
Right.
Ranger Suarez starts. Pitches as long as he can, and which, again, if that's 3-4 innings, that's what it is. And then I bring in Spencer Howard, and if he can pitch 3 innings, that's fine. He can spend the whole day getting loose in the bullpen, right? You're coming up next. And eventually I want him to be a starter again. I can't start him in games right now. I don't think sending him to Lehigh Valley is going to help the team. So maybe I'll just try that. But the whole thing is so baffling because this is a young man who's an athlete who's, done this his whole life, and all of a sudden he throws 10 pitches and I got to go take a nap.
I don't know. Maybe is it some kind of an anxiety issue? I don't know.
Well, that's his quote maybe speaks to that. He said, I don't know if it's physical, mental, mechanical, or whatnot. So he's baffled. So maybe it is. I don't know if it's psychological. I've never seen a guy get tired this quick who's an alleged Major League Baseball player, starting pitcher. And, I think because we have, as Phillies fans, seen a parade of failed prospects over the last 5 years. Hello, Mickey Moniak. How are you?
Mm-hmm. How's that going for him by the minor leagues last year?
Apparently he's hitting well in the minors right now, but,
Not the last time I looked.
Oh, yeah? Okay, I heard he was.
He was hitting 205.
Oh, is that right? I'll look up his stats. I'll see. Somebody told me he's doing better, but I didn't look it up.
By his standards, 205 isn't bad. I guess maybe that's what they were talking about. We're judging him. We're grading him on a curve.
I believe the expression "hitting his weight" applies in this one if he is. So hold on. I actually can tell you in 1 second. I'm calling it up. He is currently hitting a lusty 221. Ray, picking it up.
He's surging.
Picking it up. 5 home runs and 95 at bats. That's slightly encouraging.
Well, I'll tell you one of the things. One of the things with Howard is, he doesn't throw strikes. That's part of it. Yeah. I mean, he throws 48 pitches yesterday, and half of them are balls.
Yeah,
that's part of the problem. If he threw strikes, that would help a lot. And he's probably got this in his head now that this is a problem. And, he starts getting to the third inning, and he starts getting over – this is so ridiculous. You're even talking about it. He gets to the third inning, he gets to 40 pitches, and he starts talking himself into the fact that he's getting tired now.
Yeah.
I think that to me, it doesn't speak to a physical issue. It speaks to a mental issue. It speaks to some kind of a confidence issue. And I think that affects his control. He gets into the third inning. He starts to breathing a little hard. He starts losing the strike zone. His pitch count goes up, and he starts to believe that. Oh, here it comes again. He creates his own wall.
Oh my God! I mean, I hear what you're saying, and that's just terrible. All right, listen, we'll come back. We got some callers on hold. We'll get Jim, Brandon, Joe, anybody else. We will work you up before the end of the hour. Don't forget Keith Pompey of the Inquirer calls us at 11, and we will find out if he knows anything about whether Joel Embiid will play today. That's, of course, the big question. 215-592-9494 with Ray Didinger. I'm Glenn Macnow. It's 94 WIP. Ray Didinger, Glenn Macnow, 94 WIP. Big sports day in this city. Phillies at home host the Washington Nationals, 105. Ray, Vinny Velasquez on the mound. Can he get back to it?
Well,
he was on a roll for a while.
Yeah, the last outing was sort of the
Vinny.
The double V that we've come to know and not love. But maybe he can maybe he can get it back again. I mean, those other starts. I mean, he really was good. Yep. I just don't. I've kind of gotten to the point. You asked me before his last start what my level of confidence was in him, and I said at that time wasn't very high. And that's kind of the way I feel about him.
It certainly has not increased over the last week.
No, it hasn't increased over the last week. And we'll see. I do think the new pitching coach has helped him. I mean, he does look a heck of a lot better and a lot more comfortable and a lot more focused than he was before. And maybe he can have the same kind of success with Howard. I mean, Howard has. Well, you see him, as you said, you see him in the first inning, and you see how good he can be and how good his arm is, and then he just. You just see him. He just sort of implodes.
Tired. I find it annoying that a 20-something-year-old man gets tired in the third inning. Please.
Yeah, I don't know how you go from 97 miles an hour to 91 miles an hour in just in 2 and a third innings.
My biggest fear, of course, is that the fifth doctor who examines him says, "Oh, what you guys have never seen is that his." Scapular tendon is not connected to his meticular arteritis. Tommy John surgery.
You never noticed that he has a complete torn rotator cuff?
Yeah.
Nobody's noticed that before?
Right. He's going to go hang out with Sir Anthony Dominguez for the next 2 years. That's my biggest fear, and I have no basis to say that other than we've seen it a million times. So there you go. And, of course, Sixers, 1 o'clock start at home against the Atlanta Hawks. That should be a crazy crowd. I'm very much looking forward to that. Let's get Brandon in Brookhaven. What's on your mind, Brandon?
Hey, guys. Thank you for taking my call. And I also first would like to thank you guys for the book signing you did at Peddlers.
Yeah.
It was a great time. I have a new favorite beer now, the MC2 or 5.
MC5, great. Terrific. I'm glad you like it.
And, Ray, I'm the guy who gave you the Danbury Mint Connie Mack Stadium.
Oh, great.
I thought you would appreciate that more than me since you have good memories after reading your book.
I have wonderful, wonderful memories of Connie Mack Stadium. And that's a wonderful that is a beautiful replica of Connie Mack Stadium. I mean, it's got all the details down. I mean, all the the columns, the whole exterior and the interior, the way it lays out. I mean, it's perfect. It's perfect for your desk. I've seen it in gift shops before, but it is for those of us that remember Connie Mack Stadium. It's a wonderful representation of that.
Right down to the Lifebuoy soap ad, Ray.
There you go.
Yeah, I hope you like that, Ray. But
I did. Thanks, Brandon.
I also would like to say this though. I can't stand baseball anymore. I'm glad you guys brought me up now and you're talking about baseball. This is why I can't watch the game anymore. I turned off games now. I can't watch it. It's so boring. It's horrible. Everyone's trying to go for a home run instead of putting the ball in play. Mm-hmm. But this leads to my question, particularly for you guys. What I actually hope happens, which I'm sure you guys don't hope happen, is I hope they go on strike. I hope they go on strike. That way the sport crashes and burns, and they begin to fix it. I don't know what you guys think of that.
I don't know that a strike addresses the problems that you're looking at. I mean, a strike is more about collective bargaining and salaries and roster sizes and things like that. I think Ray and I agree the game's broken. We've talked about that. I think what they need to do is realize that the plummeting ratings and the falls in attendance. The Phillies had 16,000 people last night on a beautiful night when, with everything open. People aren't going to the games. I think they need to realize that the game is broken and the players' union and the ownership. It's not about a strike in this case. It's about a common ground that we need to find a lot of ways to make it more exciting. Maybe they will. The commissioner talks about it, but it's mostly just talk right now.
I just want them to change the rules to make it faster, and they need to do something. Yeah. They need to do something.
No, I'm with you, Brandon. The problem is if you go on strike, if they do go on strike, I mean, I think that would be a suicidal strategy. I mean, the sport's leaking oil right now. It's losing customers right now. It's disaffecting its fan base right now as it is. If they go on strike, I mean, those people are going to leave, and I'm not sure they're going to come back. And Brandon was saying, well, maybe when they rebuild it, they'll rebuild it as a better game. No, the same people that are running it now, they're just going to rebuild it into what it is now. They're not going to change this. They believe in this style of baseball. They believe in this analytics game, and so all you're going to have is a strike, which is going to make everybody mad. You're going to lose more fans, and when they put the game back on the field, it's going to be the same game you're seeing now. So that's the definition of a lose-lose.
The interesting thing that I've seen is that the guy who basically helped destroy it, what's his name? Jeez, I'm forgetting his name. Was general manager of the Red Sox and then went to the Cubs and won the World Series twice.
Theo Epstein.
Theo Epstein, thank you. I was going to say Josh Epstein, but it's not him. Theo Epstein has basically said, I helped ruin the game. My embrace of analytics and what we did with those teams has kind of pushed this thing that tumbled down the mountain, and now the game is horrible. I want to be part of fixing it. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I think he's smart enough that I would get him involved. I would definitely get him involved.
Well, if he's...
you need a blue ribbon panel of people, half a dozen experts, players, ex-players, GMs, smart people, and broadcaster. I'd get, somebody who I really trust. I'd put Scott Fransky on there. Ooh, I'd put LA on. And
that'd be my first choice.
Absolutely. You'd walk in the first meeting like, the umpires stink. And I think that's what you need. And you just need to change a lot of rules. Everything from the timing of pitches to, I would look at moving the mound. I would look at how do you adjust the strike zone. There's a bunch of stuff you could look at, but they need to fix this game fast before it disappears.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of moving the mound. I'm not in favor of pushing the rubber back. 60 feet 6 inches can still work. There's other things that are wrong with the game that you can fix it. It's fixable. You don't necessarily have to make that kind of a change.
Okay, that's fine. Ban the shift. You with me on that?
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Okay,
I'm with you on that.
That's a start.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've always been an expand the strike zone guy. Make hitters be more aggressive. Have pitchers throw more strikes. Make hitters be more aggressive. Pitchers will work faster, and the pace of the game will pick up quite naturally.
Let's sneak in Joe here before the break. You're on with Ray and Glenn. Hello, Joe.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, first of all, I was at the game Friday night, and I was shocked to see how empty the stands were. It really was.
Yeah. They had 15,000 Friday, 16,000 last night, and I just can't figure out why.
Yeah. I mean, Scherzer and Wheeler, I was excited that Howard didn't get pushed back to Friday. But anyway, I noticed something. I didn't see the broadcast, so I don't know if they talked about it. But I thought it was a really smart play by JT, and just wanted to hear your thoughts on it. I think it was when he got hit by a pitch. He was on second base, first and second, one out. And I think it was McCutchen who hit a tailor-made ground ball, and it almost looked like JT kind of stood there and, took the ground ball off the leg, which usually that's a cardinal sin, getting hit by a batted ball in the base pass. But I thought it was genius because otherwise that was two. And, the inning was over. Was that mentioned? I didn't hear anybody talk about it. There was, some more important plays to talk about that didn't lead to any runs. But I still enjoy those idiosyncratic.
Yeah, I hear you. Ray, you got thoughts on this?
No, I didn't see the game. I mean, I didn't. I checked out after the. I checked out about the same time as Spencer Howard did.
No, he's talking about Friday night.
Oh, Friday night.
So I hear your point, which is a good one, which is normally you get hit by a batted ball. It's like, unless it's going 90 miles an hour and you can't avoid it, it's a bad thing to do. But in what you're saying is by getting hit and being out, he kept a double play from happening. And he is that smart kind of player. It's one of the reasons I really like him. He's not just a good player offensively and defensively. He's not just a team leader, but he's a really smart player. And that would speak to that. Unfortunately, he did not speak to Travis Jankowski during the game, which is the play we will all remember from that game for a long time. But, I appreciate it, and it's a good point by you, and thanks for calling with that.
Yeah, that's one of the things that that bothers me about this team. I mean, not only are they playing poorly and pitching poorly and striking out too much, but there's so much dumb baseball going on out there. The guy getting picked off second base is a classic example, but there's so many other. I mean, there was one other play in that game where there was a ball that was hit to Bohm. And because he doesn't charge it, because he's not aggressive enough, he can't get the lead runner going into second. And so he has to go to first and settle for the out at first. So you went out with a runner on second base, and the next guy up kind of has a bloop hit that drops in, and that runner now scores. And, it doesn't go into the box score as an error on Bohm, but the fact of the matter is it is. Yeah. I mean, and that's That's the kind of stuff that this team does way too often. Mistakes on the bases, mistakes in the field, some of which are scored as errors, some of which are not. But that's one of the things that's really frustrating about them. The physical errors are part of it, and that's frustrating enough. But the mental errors and the dumb things that this team does, game after game, that cost them games, is really frustrating. It makes you wonder and it speaks to not just of the talent you're bringing into your organization in the minor league level, but what a poor job you're doing of teaching them how to play baseball.
Yeah, and it reflects on?
It reflects on the coaches and it reflects on the manager ultimately.
It reflects on the manager. It reflects on the manager who we had such high hopes for. And, he's just done a terrible job in so many ways. I can't blame him for every error the team makes and so on, but I can't say there's anything about Joe Girardi that I feel good about these days.
Yeah, I think you're not alone in that.
Yeah, it's huge disappointment. 215-592-9494. Coming up, we're going to talk to Keith Pompey of the Philadelphia Inquirer, see what he knows about Joel Embiid today and his thoughts about how this series against the Atlanta Hawks will go. Along with Ray Didinger, I'm Glenn Mack now on 94 WIP.
Here is Young, finds his spot. Young on the floater, puts it in. Trae Young with a miraculous shot.
Uh-oh. Well, we're hoping we don't hear too much of that over the next week or two. Because that was a good soundbite, Mosh. Nice pull. Keith Pompey is the Sixers beat writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer. He has a podcast called Locked On Sixers. You can find him on Twitter at Pompey, Pompey on Sixers. Nice enough to join us. Where he is, you just tweeted the calm before the storm, Keith. So what is it like down there right now?
I mean, put it this way, you can tell it's the second round. I mean, it's just a certain vibe when you come in the building, especially with the fans outside. So, I mean, it's exciting. I mean, I really like this time of the year.
Oh, love it. I guess I just want to ask you the most important question of all, which is, have you heard anything? Is there any kind of news about Embiid? Are there any kind of expectations as we sit here now about 2 hours from tip-off?
What I'm hearing is that, he's going to test it out. He's going to test out his knee during his pregame workout, and then he and the team are going to decide after that to see if he's able to go. But, me personally, I think he's going to play. I mean, just because of the things that I saw that he did in his pregame workout on Wednesday, and I know he didn't play in the game, but he looked good. And I guess, you have to see how it holds up, if there's swelling, if, soreness, what have you. But based off of just that, without knowing the other things, I mean, he looked like a guy that could go. And then, Dwight Howard said some encouraging things about him. And then Doc came out and said I wouldn't rule him out a couple of days ago. So, to me, when I hear things like that, it leads me to believe that the guy is going to play.
Keith, is there any sense that that there'd be anything to gain by resting him, let's say? I don't know that this thing is going to heal completely in 4 days, 5 days, or whatever. But would there be any reason to just sit him for a few days, thinking that even if he sits out the 2 games in Philly, that you'll get a better version of him by Game 3 down in Atlanta, or do you think it's not going to make a difference?
That's a tough one right there. I mean, sometimes you do say to yourself, like, if you can rest up a little while longer, you are going to get a better version. But if they rest them, and let's say if they split those 2, or, God forbid for the Sixers, they lose both of them, I mean, it becomes a completely different series, especially with a team like Atlanta, who is phenomenal at home as well. So, I mean, that's the one thing, is a catch-22. Like, is it going to be able to get worse? If not, then maybe can he just suck it up and deal with the pain? Or if we rush them, are we going to lose this series or make it a little bit closer than what it should be?
Mm-hmm. Keith, we haven't really seen the Atlanta Hawks much, at least the current iteration of the Atlanta Hawks. They played 3 times. The Sixers and Hawks played 3 times this year. Both teams had injuries, and it was, I don't know what to take off of that. But since Nate McMillan took over in the second half of the year, They are 27-11. Can you give us we know Trae Young, we know how great he is. We watched that certainly the last series against the Knicks. Give us your scouting report on Atlanta.
Well, see, what they have is they have the guy Bogdanovich, who didn't play in any of the 3 games that the Sixers had. He's a phenomenal player, an underrated player. He can shoot the ball. He's a pretty good playmaker. And then they have DeAndre Hunter, the kid from Philadelphia. He went to Friends Central. He's 6'8", about 225. He can guard multiple forward positions. I mean, he's big enough that he can guard Tobias. He can also guard Ben. Now, he's a little hampered coming off of injury, but he's good. But the thing is, the guy who really stands out to me is Clint Capella, right? Because he's one of those guys who came in the league as an energy guy, and he thrived at it. He knows that he has to roll to the basket. He runs rim to rim. He's a pretty good shot blocker. And to me personally, if Embiid is a little hampered or can't get up and down the court, what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to run Clint, and they're going to try to get some lobs and some easy fast break points with him. And then you have the guy John Collins. He's 6'9", maybe 225, 230. A pretty good player, but he's also one of those guys who likes to get under your skin. Like, he's going to go up against Embiid, and he's going to go real close to him, give him a little elbow, talk trash.
Yeah, I love that basketball. Yeah.
He's like your little cousin. Like, shut up, man. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Like, that's him. But then they also have a guy by the name of Kevin Huerter who comes off the bench. I hope I pronounced his name right, the last name, but he can really light it up and shoot. So they're young guys. They like to get after it. They love being booed. They have a chip on their shoulder, and I think they're better than what people are giving them credit for.
Yeah, I agree with you, Keith. I mean, I was saying to Glenn right before you came on that they had no fear with the Knicks, and in fact, it was Capella when they were getting ready to go back to New York for Game 5, who came out and just basically told the Knicks, they said they were going to be tough, they were going to be physical, they were going to be this, they were going to be that. I haven't seen any of that. He's saying this as he's walking into the Garden to play the closeout game. So these guys have no fear. But I thought, and you mentioned this in your prediction in the paper today, and you just mentioned it again. I think it's a significant point, is that Bogdanovich is available to the Hawks now, which he wasn't in any of the 3 games against the Sixers this season. And everybody's talking about Trae Young and what you're going to have to do to defend Trae Young and keep him from going off. But if you have Bogdanovich on the floor, you can't leave him open because he's going to hit the 3 ball too. So I think getting him back into, if it comes into a half court kind of situation, his shooting ability and his range is liable to get Young some better looks.
I agree 100%. And here's the funny thing about Bogdanovich that people don't bring up. You remember when Milwaukee was accused of tampering because they were going to do a sign and trade before he was supposed to do it? Well, but Bogdanovich was the guy that they wanted. And he's a good, people have been talking about him for years as being someone that's going to extend and be a great player. And like you said, the Sixers didn't play him before, this season with the Hawks. So a lot of people here don't know about him. But if he gets cooked, and then all of a sudden you said, I agree 100%, then Trae is going to be able to get his shots, and they're going to be tough to beat. And again, the thing that scares me about this team is that they're coming to Philly. Philadelphia is known for its crowd. They're going to get on Trae, just like they got on Westbrook. Hopefully no one throws any popcorn at him, but they're going to get on him, and they're going to do everything. And this guy thrives under that. He loves it. You know what I mean? He loves it. They love it. So it's one of those things where I know the crowd is going to get into it, and you want them to, but just know that this dude he welcomes it all, and he's going to have a big game.
Yeah, I love players like that. Keith Pompey is our guest. Follow him on Twitter at Pompey on Sixers. Listen to his podcast, Locked on Sixers. So much of the oxygen, Keith, always goes to Ben Simmons, understandably. And even in the first round, he had the games where he couldn't hit the free throws. We know he's not going to take the open shot when he's got it. And yet, he plays great defense. He had another triple-double in the last game. Certainly is a huge reason why they won. Ray and I have agreed that this is kind of make it or break it time for Ben Simmons. Not this entire postseason. This is it. He has a general manager and a coach. They didn't draft him. And if it doesn't work out for the Sixers, he'd be the guy they would look at. Do you agree with our theory there?
Yes and no. I mean, I understand what a lot of people are saying, and if he struggles, I think that sometimes you have to, you may be able to let a guy go when their value is high. However, I do genuinely believe that Doc Rivers really likes him. And it's one of these things where, Doc Rivers isn't the one who basically said, hey, I'm going to give him all this money. I'm going to make him the point guard. I think what Doc Rivers really likes about him is that, he's a multifaceted player, like a 5'2" guy, so to speak. And he can do a lot of different things. I think, though, in order for them to be successful with him, they may have to go out there and get another guard who can handle the ball, and maybe that can end up being Tyrese Maxey. George Hill getting more looks. But more so Maxey moving forward, and I think it will work out. Now, the one problem is that he eats up so much of your cap space, and typically when you want a guy to eat up that much money, the results that you want to see are typically scoring points, high, free throw shooting, not like blocks, rebounds, all that other type of stuff. But, again, I honestly think that Doc Rivers likes him. And I think that when he says some stuff, I know he's protecting his guy. And, he knows that some of the stuff the media is saying is true. But I generally believe that Doc really likes this guy and thinks that he's a winner.
Keith, what do you think? I mean, everybody's talking about Trae Young, and he was great. He was obviously great in the New York series, and he's a game changer. I mean, he's a guy that can take over a game. We've seen it. How do you think the Sixers play against him? Do you think? Everybody's sort of suggesting that Simmons is going to play him a lot, and Thibault will probably play him some. How do you think it's going to break down? If they really feel like Young is the number one offensive option, how do the Sixers play that?
I kind of think that, we'll see Ben on him early. I also think we'll see a little blend of Danny Green on him. But then I think we'll also see a bunch of Thibault on him. Because, here's the thing. The thing is, like, typically, you would have a guy who has the ball in his hands. A lot of times, the person who guards them is it's Matisse or it's Danny Green. Ben is typically guarding someone else. But I think in this one, you're going to try to bring different actions at him. Different Ben's length, Matisse's, athleticism, his reach. And then, Danny, just trying to get the guy to go in certain directions. So I think that we'll see all three of these guys on him.
All right, Keith Pompey, I know you've got work to do and waiting to see when Embiid hits the floor and what that's going to look like. But let us get your prediction for the series, and if you want to do if Embiid plays and doesn't, you're certainly welcome to do that.
No, what I do is I'll say the Sixers in 6. I do think that Embiid's going to play. I mean, that's just me, but I have the Sixers winning in 6. I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta steals a couple games, but I have the Sixers winning.
And who do they play in the next round?
Wow, after last night, look like
the injury.
Yeah, Hey, look, so he gets injured, and Twitter goes crazy. Like, oh, they're done, and then all of a sudden Blake Griffin says, "So you guys forgot about me?"
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's who the Sixers are going to play.
Sixers, Nets. Eastern Conference Finals. Boy, that would be so much fun. I hope you're right. Keith Pompey, thanks so much for being our guest today. Enjoy the game, man.
All right. Thanks for having me on, fellas.
Thanks,
Keith. There you go. You know what, Ray? I think I know what he did there.
What's that?
So I've been down at like a stadium or an arena where you want to do an interview, and there's like you're in the press room or the press box, and there's a ton of noise. You got to like find something.
Right.
So you find either a private bathroom or a closet, and you just go in there and do the interview because there was a lot of echo, right? You heard the echo. And then at one point, did you hear what sounded like somebody knocking on the door?
Yep. He's in the men's room.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think so too. I thought the same thing.
It's a private men's room, and you just kind of lock the door, and somebody's like, "I've been out here for 10 minutes. What's going on in there?" Knock, knock, knock. And I've had it happen to me, but I appreciate him doing it. So
I know.
that was something. Sixers in 6, says he. You and I said Sixers in 7, but I said if Embiid doesn't play, I don't think they're going to win if Embiid doesn't play. He was, by the way, let me backtrack. He was very optimistic that Embiid will play, including today.
Yeah, he is. He said just, and he's around the team all the time.
Sure.
And he can kind of, read between the lines of what Rivers is saying. And I think he's getting a vibe from the coach that Embiid wants to play, and they're going to let him play and as much as he can play to his level of tolerance. He's going to go out, he's going to warm up, he's going to shoot a little bit, he's going to handle a little bit and see how he feels. But I'm pretty sure he's going to go in, he's going to say, yeah, let me give it a try. And then they'll go from there, and they'll see how it goes. They need him to win the series. Because I kind of, you and I both said this, and I agree. I don't think people realize how good Atlanta is. They early in the year, Atlanta was lousy, and I think everybody just kind of wrote them off. And I don't think they've really paid attention to how good they've played down the stretch, and look at their roster and how good they are, and how easily they got past the Knicks. So this is not going to be an easy series, and I agree with you. I think to win it, I think they need Embiid. I don't know if they're going to have him starting today, but, it certainly seemed as if Keith is optimistic about him playing, and if you get Embiid on the floor, yeah, they're the better team.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ray, today is a very exciting Sixers postseason game. And today also happens to be the anniversary of one of the most exciting Sixers postseason games ever. Can I play you?
Iverson, bothered by Lou. Iverson, yes.
How about that?
And steps over Teron Lou.
That was 20 years ago today.
Oh my
Game
God.
1 of the NBA Finals. Oh, my goodness. What a year that was. 2001. Sixers against the Lakers. I'm actually looking at the highlight as Moshe played the video, the audio of it.
Mm-hmm.
I got to say, Tyronn Lue actually does a pretty good job defending him.
Yeah.
And falls because he goes up to try to stop the shot, which he does, and steps on Iverson's foot. And then Iverson steps over him. But I remember going into that series, like the Lakers, nobody could beat the Lakers. Lakers in 4, they were the greatest team in the last 15 years, and the Sixers win Game 1. And I'm not going to say I fooled myself into thinking that the Sixers are going to win the whole series, but I thought, ooh, maybe we could have something going on here. And then the Lakers took them in 4 straight.
Yeah, and then Lakers win Game 2, and then they come to Philly and they win 2, and then it's all over. But there was
Kobe Bryant does all that stuff here.
Yeah, but boy, what I remember was just the excitement in the city.
Yeah,
was how excited the people were, the fans were. I remember all the Sixers pennants on the antennas of car antennas all over the city, and people they loved that team and they loved Iverson, and they were exciting. They gave this town a great ride, and that was a great series. And that game, people are going to, wow, it's hard to believe that's 20 years. People are going to talk about that game and that moment for a long time. The thing that I remember about it, in addition, Iverson hitting the shot and then stepping over Lou. That's what everybody remembers. What I remember was Pat Croce, who was there, coming out of his seat, just leaping out of his seat, and pointing at Jack Nicholson and hollering at Sharon Stone, and all the beautiful people at courtside in the Forum. Take that, take that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I remember, because I remember when we had Pat on for Tell Us Your Story a couple weeks ago. We talked about that game and talked about his reaction to that game. I mean, as energized as Pat Croce is most of the time, he was super energized that night.
So if the Sixers can take out Atlanta, if Embiid can be healthy, if Ben Simmons can have a big postseason, and all of the other, components of it can, Harris and all, if everybody, everybody can play well, Maxey continues to improve and be great. And you go into that next series against Milwaukee or the Nets, but the Nets is the better story. And you get that momentum of excitement. And we said this at the start of the show. Everybody has had a really tough last 16 months. To be able to come out of that with a Sixers run to a championship would be just the best way to shut the door on the pandemic in this city. It would be the greatest thing.
It would be. It would be a great story. It would be great for everybody. It'd be great for the city. It'd be great for the fans. It would be wonderful. I hope it's not too good to be true. I hope it's right. And you know what? I mean, looking at the NBA the way it sets up now in this postseason, I really think it is Brooklyn. I think that whoever comes out of the East is going to win it. You know, I look at the teams in the West, and they're good, but I think the best team out there is Brooklyn. And if the Sixers get by Atlanta and they can get by Brooklyn, I'll bet they're going to be favored in the finals.
And you feel good that the Lakers got knocked out early because you don't have to worry about them gaining any momentum.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, even though they weren't a great team this year,
they could be.
Yeah, when you get into a best of 7 for the World Championship, I'd rather not be staring down LeBron James. You know,
Yeah.
so I really think if the Sixers get out of the East, I think they're going to win it. I really do.
Hey, Ray, what do you got going on later today?
Well, after I get off the air talking to you, I'm heading over to the Barnes & Noble at the Morristown Mall, and I'm going to be over there starting at 2 o'clock. I'll probably actually be over there a little earlier than that, but they're saying 2 o'clock.
You know you're going to have a line early, so the quicker you go, the more you'll help people.
That's what I figure. I'm going to get there early, and if folks are there early, we'll start signing early. But I'm going to be signing copies of my book, Finished Business, my 50 years of headlines, heroes, and heartaches. And it's been great so far. I mean, the book has done very well. It's gotten nice reviews. It's been well received. It's still number 1 in several categories on Amazon. It's doing great. And we had a really good signing the other night, and hopefully we'll have another nice turnout 2 o'clock today at the Morristown Barnes & Noble.
Good stuff. 215-592-9494. He's Ray Didinger. I'm Glenn Mack now. Ray, coming up, I got an Eagles thing I want to run by you because you surprised me a little bit the other day with one of your opinions on the Eagles head coach. I want to share that with the people. Ray and Glenn on 94 WIP. Ray Didinger, Glenn Mack now, 94 WIP. All right, Ray, we're just over 90 minutes away from tip-off Sixers-Atlanta Hawks to start round 2 of the NBA playoffs. Moshe Kravitz, our producer, has been keeping his eye on social media to see what the prognosis is for Joel Embiid. Moshe, what do you got?
Well, Doc Rivers was just speaking with the media and from multiple people at that press conference. Doc Rivers says that Joel Embiid is going to be a game-time decision for today. Kyle Neubeck, who we love having on our show, said that Doc Rivers has had the Sixers preparing for both outcomes with or without Embiid in shoot-arounds and practices leading up to today's game, so the team hopefully will be ready for whatever the last-minute decision is.
Ray, sounds like it remains unresolved, cryptic.
Yeah, it does. I think it's really going to depend on how he feels when he's obviously going to go out there and go through some pregame stretching and some shoot a little bit and dribble around a little bit and see how he feels. And then he's going to go in and going to say, yeah, I think I can do it, or no, I better not. But it seems to be trending more towards him playing than not. At the beginning, I'm not so sure it's the smartest strategy. I'm not so sure that giving him another couple days rest wouldn't be the wiser course of action, but it seems to be trending towards him playing. Now, I don't know how much he's going to play. I wouldn't expect him to play 38 minutes. But I'm kind of getting the feeling the closer we get to tip-off that he's going to be out there.
Yeah, I guess. The biggest fear, of course, is that he plays and he hurts himself more. But right. What do we know? I don't know anything. All right, Ray, I want to run a little Eagles by you because they finished their organized team activities. I don't know why they stopped calling it minicamp, but whatever. And Nick Sirianni met the media a few times. Clearly, he has been well coached by the PR department. He's got every reporter's name down.
Yes, he does.
Joking and challenging all the gung-ho approach. He is Coach Ted Lasso. Oh, my God, if you saw that show, Ray, that's who he is. That's who he's modeled on. But that doesn't really matter. It's really all about how he's going to be as a coach. We don't know that yet. I read that his young coaching staff is diving right into the middle of drills. He's got a 28-year-old linebacker coach showing by doing, and Nick's out there with Arcega-Whiteside trying to give him some coaching. And you and I didn't get to discuss this on the show yesterday, but you said you've got some positive impressions, so I wanted to hear about that.
Well, I do, because the one theme that he has just hammered away at from his first press conference right through the one the other day is the idea of competition. It's all about competition. And to the point where I think people kind of just are sort of like, yeah, okay, I've heard that before. But there's something in the way this guy says it that I believe it. I really do. And it takes me back to '76 with Vermeil. It's a lot like that. Again, he comes in, he's at the same age, and there's in terms of the enthusiasm and the energy, there's a lot of similarity there. And the one thing that Dick said from the beginning, the theme of his training camp was it's going to be competition, and so there's a sameness here that I kind of relate to, having gone through it once before, and I think it's a good thing. You know, we're in an era now in all sports, and pro football is not apart from this. I mean, they're part of it too. There's a lot of guys, they talk about competition, but there's not really competition. You know, coaches like to talk about competition, but you know, you get to training camp and you know who your veterans are, and you know who the guys who are making the money are, and you know who the high draft picks are, and you know who the free agents are, and you know, you can say it's competition, but it's not. You know, things are given to people in football and in all sports now. And a lot of it is dictated by the front office. A lot of it is dictated by salary. And I kind of understand that. But the idea of competition really does I think it's important in any organization. That everybody feels like they have a chance. And everybody feels that the decisions are being made on the basis of fairness. And that was the foundation of what Vermeil built. And I think that's what this guy's bringing here now. When he talks about this is all going to be competition, and every day at the practice field, it's going to be competition. And the guys who make this team and the guys who are going to play are going to be the guys that win it every day. They're going to earn it, and they're going to win it every day on the practice field. I believe that. I believe he's true to that. Now, the problem is when you say it to the degree that he has said it, you really do have to live up to it. You can't keep preaching competition, and then when you go to training camp, you put this guy in there, and then it's his job, and it doesn't matter. He can go through the motions, and you have the guy behind him is really pushing him hard, but the coaches are going to go with the guy they want to go with anyway. If you say there's going to be competition, there has to be true competition. I'm taking this guy at his word and believing that that's the case. And let's just take the left tackle position.
I was about to interject that's the biggest position where you could see it first, because you got a former first-round pick with a big-time contract versus a sixth-round pick who's kind of been hanging around trying to learn it for a few years.
Correct. And that's the one that you can kind of point to now and say, okay, let's see how this one plays out. Because you have the left tackle. You need to get a left tackle. You have Andre Dillard, who was a first-round draft pick, making first-round draft pick money. And the other tackle out there is Jordan Mailata, who was a seventh-round draft pick and a guy who'd never played football before, and he was this Australian rugby player who didn't seem to have a chance, but he's come here and he's learned how to play the game, and when he's had the opportunity to play, I will tell you, he has actually played very well. So now, is this real competition? Because you know that Howie Roseman and the people in the front office and the guys that are writing the checks would love to see Andre Dillard be the guy because they're paying him to be. They drafted him to be, and they're paying him to be. But let's see when they line up a training camp. Is this real competition? Because I think if it's honest, genuine competition, I think if they just put it out there and, okay, boys, there's the job, you go fight for it, I think Mailata will win it. I mean, I've seen more from Mailata in real game action than I have seen from Dillard. I'm not prepared to write Dillard off. He had his moments. Not when they put him at right tackle, he looked terrible. When he played at left tackle, especially the game in Buffalo.
I've never gotten past that, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I felt he quit in that game.
I thought he did, too. I thought he quit 2 days before the game.
Yeah, quit during the week. Yeah,
when he found out that he was going to have to play right tackle, all he kept telling people was, geez, I don't know, right tackle. Yeah. And he went out there and he played like that. Yeah. But I will tell you, if you go back and you look at the Buffalo game that he played at left tackle, he actually played pretty well. So I've seen some signs of it there, and I certainly thought he was a good college player. But in terms of what he's done at the NFL, Mailata has played better more often. And let's see how this plays out. The front office would love to see Dillard win this job, but the coaches, if it's real competition and they put the guys out there and they let them compete, best man win, I think Mailata wins the job. But that'll be an interesting test. But I know there's been a lot of talk about Sirianni, and the Ted Lasso comparison probably has a lot of validity.
Oh gosh, yes.
But everything that I have
seen. By the way, Ted Lasso won some games, so it's not such a bad thing.
Yeah, right. But I like him. I like his personality. I certainly like his energy. The people I've talked to around the league that have worked with him have a lot of respect for his intelligence. The only thing people say is, I just don't know if he's ready for this challenge right now, because this team needs a lot of work and it's a tough town.
Oh, I don't want to know that.
But we'll see. But I know he took his lumps early on, and there was some question about his hiring, and there's still some questions about him out there. But there are some things I've seen in his presentation that, if he's being honest with me, if what he's saying is what he truly believes and what he plans to go to training camp, then I'm on board with him.
Of everything you said, you know what scares me the most?
What's that?
The speculation that this guy may be a good head coach someday, but he's not ready for it yet, which of course means that he goes here, he kind of learns on the job, it doesn't quite work out, he lasts a few years, then he's gone, and then down the road he's winning Super Bowls with somebody else, right? It's the Bill Belichick in Cleveland thing, but we've seen it in this town with Francona,
sure,
right? Who was here and was not a very good manager, and in fact said it was kind of a mulligan. And then he goes and wins World Series with the Red Sox, and he goes to Cleveland, and he's great. And I fear we're seeing it now with Gabe Kapler, who was not a very good manager here, and no amount of looking in the rearview mirror and thinking things have changed is going to alter that. And now I believe last time I checked, the San Francisco Giants have the best record in baseball, and all of a sudden, Gabe Kapler's a genius.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need another one of these, Ray. I just can't. I mean, to a lesser degree, Andy Reid was, here for 13 years, and won his share of games, goes to Kansas City to win the Super Bowl.
Wins the Super Bowl in Kansas City.
Please. I don't need there to be the Nick Sirianni story coming out in 15 years, and Chapter 2 is the Philadelphia Learning Experience.
Yeah.
Because we've had it. I don't want it. I want him to do well here. And I share your fear that not only is he young, but his entire staff is young. We've talked about this. Other than Stoutland, and I know there's one other position coach, I forget who he is.
Tracy Rocker.
Okay, who's an older fella.
Mm-hmm.
All of you look down the assistant coaches, it looks like they're the age that should be the roster for the team.
Yeah, the linebacker coach is 27.
Yeah, he's out there, as I said, he's out there doing drills with them this week, right? They're 27, 32, 34. They're a young team of coaches. That may work out great, but I always feel like I'll take half young guys and half experienced guys, and that blend's going to work for me.
Yeah,
these guys got to show ID when they go to clubs.
They are a young-looking bunch. I mean, I've been covering this team since 70, so it's a long time. And I've never seen – I've seen some young coaches, but I've never seen this young a staff.
Right. Vermeil came in really young, but he had some older guys there.
Yes.
Ooh, hey, by the way, stop real quick because we got to break for Big Daddy, but – our pal Jack Fritz just sent me this, according to Ian Rappaport, and I hope this is all correct and validated.
It is. I was about to hit the breaking news sounder for you.
Hit the breaking news sounder. I love it.
Breaking news.
This does not involve a Philadelphia team, but it is big for the NFL. The Atlanta Falcons are trading all-pro wide receiver Julio Jones to the Titans. The Titans. In exchange for at least a second-round pick. Ian Rappaport says a blockbuster for Tennessee, who now gets the coveted big play threat, and Atlanta ends up with a very nice value. I'm imagining when he says at least a second-round pick, it's a second-round pick that, based on performance, could grow into more. Julio Jones moves. We got to hit a break. We'll try to get it back, talk to him by the end of the show. We got Big Daddy Graham coming up next. Ray and Glenn on 94 WIP. And as we wait for news about Joel Embiid and look forward to a Sixers second-round matchup against the Atlanta Hawks, who's better to talk to than a basketball junkie himself, our pal Big Daddy. Big.
Hey, I got breaking news on Embiid.
Oh.
I got it. He was seen putting sneakers on. That's the latest I got. Seen putting sneakers on.
All right, we got to get the breaking news sounder for that one. Big, we love talking to you. I know how excited you are about this matchup. Before we get you to break it down a little bit, it's always fun when you bring us a list of the day, and yours today involves great NBA nicknames, and I think when you told me you were doing it, we kind of both had the same genesis, the same beginning for this.
Yes, we did. And let me point out, this is no Sixers. And this is only the NBA. I'm telling you this because There are so many classic nicknames that to do this justice, I would have to do 4 or 5 different ones.
Sure.
With 4 or 5 topics behind it. Just we wrote those books and there's so many nicknames. But here we go with number 5. Okay, number 5. I had to get this one out of the way because what exactly do you do about World Be Free? Because it technically wasn't a nickname after a while, right?
Yeah, it changed his name.
It changed his name.
Yeah.
But how many people do that? I really stopped and thought about it. And I come from a show business background where I changed my name. My name's not Big Daddy Graham. That's common in showbiz. It's not common in the world of sports.
No.
Who's ever changed their name? Except World Meta Peace. What was his name? Ron Artest?
Yeah, Ron Artest became Meta Peace.
Yep. You ever hear a great story about him? He was with the Lakers when they won a championship. And after the game, all the players were going, well, let's go to Mac now. Should be a good place to go. So, oh, yeah, let's go. So, NBA players, they dress to the max before they hit all the clubs that night.
Sure.
And they show up at one club, and Artest had already gotten there. And he's wearing his Laker uniform. The one that he wore during the game.
Well, there you go. At least women will know who you are.
That's right.
All right.
Coming to number 4. It's so simple, but so perfect. And the fact that it has lasted as long as it has. I love the Big O.
Mm-hmm.
It's so simple and defined, and it matched him perfectly. The Big O. I love the Big O. That's Robinson, by the way.
Yep, that's a great one. That's a great one because it endures. I mean, people, you mentioned Big O, people still know who you're talking about, and that's years and years ago. But it works still.
Years and years ago. Hey, by the way, speaking of one that's years and years ago, this is not number 3. It's just a point of discussion. Pistol Pete Maravich.
Oh, I love that. I thought he was going to be on the list. Played for the Hawks. Great nickname.
No doubt, great nickname. Would not have been his nickname today.
Oh, because of guns?
No, we already got the bullets that turned into the Wizards.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. But boy, I loved him, and I loved everything about that guy. So it's a good little addendum. Who's number 3?
Who's number 3? Vinny Microwave Johnson.
Love it.
I was hoping you'd get that one in there. That's one of my favorites.
And you know what? I swear, if I got the time of all this right, he was Microwave Johnson, and I didn't have a microwave.
Well, I was living in Detroit when he was on the Pistons. So it was I was in Detroit from 81 to 86. And he was an amazing player because that was a good team. With Isaiah Thomas, they had Kelly Tripucka who could shoot, who the other guys became, Lambeer and Dumars and all those. But he would just come off the bench, the most unlikely looking guy, kind of squat, not tall, and he would just throw them up from wherever, and they would go in. He was so much fun to watch.
He really was. Coming in at number 2 could quite possibly be my favorite of all time, if it wasn't for number 1. And that's Never Nervous Elvis Ellison.
That's a good one. He didn't have the great NBA career, but he sure was a great college player.
Never Nervous Elvis. Classic. And then, of course, the reason why we're doing this list today is because the Atlanta Hawks have quite possibly the greatest nickname ever. It's certainly way up there. And that's the human highlight film for Dominique Wilkins.
Yeah.
I mean, when you stop and think about, there'd be no ESPN if it wasn't for slam dunks and watching all these amazing talents. And Dominique is the king of that.
Yeah.
The human highlight film.
It's a great name. You walk around with that name. Who are you? I'm the human highlight film. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Big, let me get your thoughts on this series. We don't know if Embiid's going to play or how much. How are you looking at this?
Tough call with Embiid. They move on if he plays. Let's say this series went 7, and obviously he would play the final 2. I think it goes 7 if he misses 2 games, and that's being generous. If he plays all 7, there won't be 7. If he plays this first 6 games, that's how far it'll go. 6 games. I like Atlanta. The guy that I love on Atlanta the most is a Sweet Lou Williams, who's done nothing but be an amazing 6th man off the bench. Maybe one of the best ever, right?
Yeah, he ended up having a real...
I think he's been 6th man of the year 3 times.
Yeah.
So of course, this is all up to Embiid. If Embiid misses 2 games, look out. If he only misses 1, we should be able to survive that. And I don't think he's going to play today.
Uh-oh. This is not the optimistic Big Daddy Graham.
Well, I'm optimistic about the team. I went to the last home game.
Oh, I know.
He looked really good.
Yeah.
In 3-game warm-ups.
Hey.
He was nothing right. Didn't like he was moving that badly. But, the Sixers and the history of Embiid, I know when he went out that game, I said, he's not coming back in.
Yeah. One more thing, because we do have to move, but I have been following and enjoying your countdown of the 100 greatest albums of all time, disagreeing with a lot of your choices, but that's what it's about. And you're down to nut crunch time, right?
I wouldn't have put it that way.
Well, yeah.
Nut crunch time.
Where are we on the list, right? You're in top 10?
Well, it's done, but it's not done for my listeners yet.
Right, you're releasing it. You're doing a slow release.
Yeah. And by the way, guess what's next? At least we think this is next. The NFL A to Z. We're going to come up with the best players ever, whose last name begins with D, P,
gotcha.
R, and that's a lot of fun.
Well, I think you may already want to book Mike Quick.
I think so.
I think that's a pretty safe one. Big, if people want to find the music podcast, where do they find it?
BigDaddyGraham.com.
Easy enough. Hey, pal, always a pleasure. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.
All right, buddy, be good. There you go.
Did not have Magic Johnson.
No, and that's such a good nickname, it just essentially became his name.
It became his name.
Most people don't even know. Irving? What is his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, you're doing a top 5, He some of the ones he did, like Big O, to me are iconic.
I agree.
And some of the ones like Microwave are fun.
Right.
So I think he tried to balance the iconic with the fun.
Glad he got Pistol Pete in there. I think Pistol Pete Maravich is still one of the great names, and it's just so perfect for the way he played. Yeah, it just really fit him.
Yeah, what a fun player he was to watch. Ray, before you go, 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, give me your prediction for Sixers today.
I think I'm still going to say I don't think Embiid plays, but I think the Sixers win. I think
that's the perfect. that would be the. Well, I don't know if it's the best, but assuming he can get another day of rest and be better, and they can still win, that's not bad.
Yeah, I like them in this game. Although I think it's going to be a tough series. I think it's going to be a long series, and I'm going to say Sixers, but I think it's going to take 7 games.
Okay, and where are you going today? Let's give that one more hit.
Okay, I am on my way, even as we speak, to the Barnes & Noble at the Moorestown Mall. And I will be there at 2 o'clock today, probably even a little earlier than that, signing copies of my book, Finished Business, my 50 years of headlines, heroes, and heartaches. I will be there at 2 o'clock signing books. So come on by and do your graduation shopping, your Father's Day shopping, birthday shopping, whatever. We will be there to fill all of your needs.
Terrific stuff. Ray, always a pleasure. I will talk to you during the week. We have a couple of really special Tell Us Your Stories coming up. We're not going to tell you now. But
No.
Stay tuned and listen.
Will be worth waiting for.
Absolutely. Moshe Kravitz did a terrific job producing. He and I are sticking around. We got Phillies pregame leading off coming up next right here on 94 WIP.
Hey, I'm Peter Bukowski, host of the Locked On Today podcast. Trying to stay on top of every big story in sports is a full-time job. I know, because it is my full-time job. But it's not yours. That's why we have a network of local experts ready to give you the inside scoop on everything you truly need to know in the sports world. And we do it every day to make sure you're always caught up on the latest and greatest in sports. Listen to the Locked On Today podcast every day on the Odyssey app or wherever you get podcasts.